Okay, I'm watching a lot of Glenn Kirschner stuff. Actually, been doing that for quite a while. Now he's got a show out there. He's talking about how he thinks for that just for the moment that Kamala's kind of sort of the right person. And in some ways, I can understand the logic of this. He's upfront honest about that he prefers prosecutors, and he's looking at a lot of this from a prosecutor's mindset, and he's doing comparables and bringing out various points. And then I would hate to have to pop his bubble because there are hidden closets, there are things in the closet, there are other elephants that were hidden in closets that nobody knew existed. So there's a bunch of other stuff here that's like kind of sort of bad. Before I get into that, I'm going to say because I filed for panel, because I'm dealing with an incredibly large multi-Rico situation, which some people look at that and they go, "That's nuts." Well, welcome to reality. This is what is. You know, and some people look at it, you know, now, you know, here's the funny, I got people laugh. They looked at my stuff to begin with, says, you know, Mike, when I first saw your stuff there, I thought that was crazy, you know, and he says, 6 months later, it just kind of clicked in my head, and he says, you know, it's awful funny, you know, that kind of sounds sort of like Donald Trump, you know. So, yeah, and it's like, you know, talk to him again, he says, well, how much is that of that is Donald Trump? And I says, well, you'd be surprised how it gets around and how many areas are actually other folk. But yeah, you do. You know, I'm like, you do see the understanding of the complexities of just Trump alone. And they said, yeah, I do, and it's massive. It's massive. 20,000 members plus of the Justice Department, almost permanently dedicated. Let's call it forced to deal with Trump-related problems. That's pretty much just the federal level, by the way. That's the federal level. State levels, they've got their own investigators, and you've got the private. It goes on and on. It's enormous. It's enormous, and that means that I got a sad point real quick. Is that 20% of what would normally be the assessed, predicted case workloads that would be handled have been dropped. They've been dropped. That means people that normally should be getting services are not getting services. You know, please feel and understand this part of the horror story. It's very important. So I'm going to jump back here and say I'm really impressed with the way Glenn does this, but then I'm going to turn around and say I'm going to disagree but agree, if this makes sense, if you hear what it is that I have to say. Because what I've decided, for instance, with my presidential campaign, I have filed for full panel rights. Our forefathers were way smarter than a lot of people thought they were, you know, because you have this provision to be able to do this: invasion, insurrection, mass rebellion. And it's everybody makes the mistake. They go immediately over to the presidential powers thing, and they don't understand the power of the candidate. Presidential candidate need only verbally proclaim. This is to deal with these extreme situations. The United States guarantees all cost, and people say, well, wait a minute, that's different than the other. Well, we'll talk about that later. There's a reason why you have to keep continuity of government going and why monies have to be guaranteed, and it's in there. And jump back and forth of the complexities. Things are updated later on where they'll say, well, what would that apply also to da-da-da? Yes, which means you have these oddball situations where something is mentioned and it's like kind of an amending, or it's within the framework, and you don't always see accuracy translate out into annotated material. This is part of the tragedy in law. But aside from that, I'm going to jump back. Now, my strategy here is to say that using the panel, you know, saying, yeah, we want to do 20 seats and we need 7 prosecutors. This is wise, and we're going to need extra staffing. We're going to need security forces, etc. You know, that part of the problem is that we don't have enough personnel. We don't have enough judges. We don't have enough prosecutors. We don't have enough investigators. We don't have enough qualified service field agents with the right center core, knowing where their center is, of the highest ethics available. We have vast shortages. Now, some people disagree. I'm going to say, please understand me. This is what's happening. I see this, and maybe other people will agree with that. It's important. So, expanding using a completely legal area to temporarily expand court capability, because the panel also has trial rights. But it's different. By the way, it's different than military. If people immediately they jump to military tribunal. No. Can it do military tribunal? Yeah, you can do Milton and this other stuff too, but it's different. You have to understand the mindset of the moments, and the mindset and the will, and what Congress had already previously discussed about problems with earlier rioting and different types of other stuff. This is why you ended up with Category 1 versus Category 2. Category 1 mandatory, definitely. Category 2, you can update it and find that some of these people were trapped, and stealing bread was okay. They didn't even commit a crime. They had to live. Their babies had to survive, etc. So a higher order is expected. You will come under more scrutiny. The panel is designed to be of the higher order. That's the ideal situation. But it's also scalable. In other words, if the country disintegrates, you have to keep going. But you're supposed to be moving for the highest possible items. So when it comes to the point as to the word torture, our forefathers responded positively, and then said, well, whatever's necessary, and this is to obtain information and confession. So in the modern term, the evolutionary term, the pausing part of our forefathers is they think about this, and they don't want to go along. They don't want people to abuse torture, but at a national level, it's different than a normalized level. You have to remember, we're talking about invasion, insurrection, mass rebellion. That's completely different than, oops, we lost control of an area and there's a riot. Because is the riot actually an insurrection? That's different. A bunch of college kids throwing a fit on a college campus are not trying to overthrow the federal government, unless they're on every college campus and they've got a work schedule someplace and they're loading up with ammo and they're going to go rush the Capitol. Be a little different. But float with me a little bit on this. So the idea is that we need more high-end, honest people. We need to expand the courts. And you can do private courts legitimately. Private courts, you can make private courts that's legitimate. The panel is something that is incredibly powerful. But here's the thing. It's reviewable by the Senate, which means you're liable to do a bunch of stuff and somebody will go through it like a flash, going through there. Yeah, that was good, that was good, that was good, that was good. And then you do something you don't like and all of a sudden it's boom. You're going to come under the microscope. So this is the reality. And there is, to try to save it, I need to get to points faster, so I can't keep covering it the most intensely. The spirit of it is you're supposed to upgrade. You are supposed to bring in and be an example for a new modification and higher handling of law. This is part of what it's supposed to be. If there's any way possible that you can make this happen. So one of the first things I do with the panel is say, when it comes to the word torture, this is replaced with a section called FMRI lie detector. The entire point here is torture. I can start off with a lot of the points. Torture is not necessarily guaranteed to get you accurate information. Some people are just crazy and don't care how much pain you put them. And fMRI does things way different. You're going to give somebody a lot of pharmaceuticals. You're not just going to do the standard test. You're talking about World War II, truth serum, that stuff, except pharmaceuticals have massively evolved. Massively. So we're talking about pharmaceuticals, fMRI lie detector. We're talking about professional questioning. This is when you need professional prosecutors, professional investigators to be able to work with key types of questioning. So when it becomes necessary to force people into an FMRI, you can do this, because it's more troublesome to do it with people when they're not willing. Now, willing witnesses, different story. In other words, willing witness might be a woman or a girl and says, yeah, I was violently raped by these assholes. And they say, we don't know anything about it. And this is somehow it's part of their criminal spree, insurrection / whatever. You know, she wants her privacy, but she wants to be recognized. People say, he said, she said, there's no proof. Not with an fMRI. An fMRI brings about all kinds of things, of emotional states, visual snapshots. You're going to get a lot of fragments quickly. So a willing witness, and granted this would be an emotional situation. Some are less emotional. The less emotional situation, the better. So the willing witness is the key to bringing a new form, a new type, a form of definitive truth, because you're changing everything with this device. So now you also obviously you have the option, you probably thought about, of doing other people. Well, how do you feel about this? We have the willing witness said this, so he said, she said, just changed. You want to put your head in the donut? And they're like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to take a bunch of pharmaceuticals to put my head in the donut. Aha. Definitely we have questions, reason to believe. This has definitely changed the scope of certain areas. So as we move forward from this, the idea is, from my idea standpoint, is that the panel would have to run on longer than just the election, because we have matters to resolve, and there's a reason for this. Number one, let's be honest, the insurrection has been more than J6. It's been nationwide. It's at different levels in different areas. It also wasn't just something that happened on J6. It's been an evolving thing. It has been. It's been an evolving thing. So many matters are going to have to take longer. It's going to go past the election. So this means that the possibility of creating new courts could actually come from this. But it is a completely constitutional use item on panel declaration. Full trial capability, everything. You can also do extra reviews. You have a different type of system that you could do. You could do different types of summary judgments, partial summary judgments, like, yeah, these people are liable, they owe $25 million, and you turn around and say, okay, well, this is blatantly obvious. What do we do? Well, we're going to seize $2 million, and we're going to do a separate order granting it for immediate use to cover operations involving whatever particular case that is. It's completely justifiable action. So there's a lot of examples of how you can do different things, and a lot of different ways where you'll run into complexities of other cases that could get forced into the panel trial area. It'll have to expand. You're going to have to end up having review boards, action boards, court boards, three judge panels, all kinds of stuff. So moving with this is my idea of what's already been provided by our forefathers in spirit. It says, let's work with this, because we do have that state of emergency, and items do need to be addressed, and the justice system is overtaxed. They are overtaxed right now. And you have the IRS wants to add, about 80,000 employees. Congress says, no, we don't want to do that. But so we got a situation where, in my view, the wise thing would be to do is to say, well, number one, I'll admit it. I sequestered for Jack Smith. When Jack Smith is done, I put a thing that says number one. It says, he's mine. I want him after this. I have some items. He's going to be the most experienced in the area to deal with certain items that I believe was connected to people that are part of the Donald Trump mechanism. I was going to let him handle that. So I'm unzipping my fly in a way. I'm showing that. But there are other people. I wanted 7. I'd like very much to get Glenn to work on this, because there's a lot of material there. But I think he'd be unbiased. there'd be material there he may not like, but he's the kind of guy, I think, that would focus and say, okay, I'll look at this, and let's see what we can do with this. So, having Glenn on board would be highly important, because sooner or later, if things go where I believe they would go, the reason believe, and where some of the portions of the Rico would go, you would have him, and it would be him and Jack Smith probably working together a bit that way. So there would be different people this way, that way. And there's other surprises. Like I said, there's people that did things that other people don't know that they didn't know that they participated in that. So you have people that have their bubble popped all the time. They think they have great ideas about people, and they really don't know. Julie Sue's one of those people, where she's involved in some very bad stuff. A lot of it. And the reality that some people thought was reality is not. In other words, she might go ahead and get 85 people on staff right away, get a job, and she gets all of her staff people, contact all these different people, and oh, by the way, let's work on a dialogue so I can get a better recommendation. So she'll in spirit try to work with them, and then smooch up to them, and end up getting a reference for herself. So this is a lot of what she did. And when the Secret Service did analysis and then the Senate did the analysis, there's these huge gaping gaps in her scheduling and her communication. And all of a sudden you find out she didn't communicate with certain types of people. And she communicated with a whole bunch of union people about a bunch of union stuff. And she did all these other things wrong. She gathered up, she changed the phone system, blacklisting. I forget how many. I think I had over 300 hours recorded at one time involving what was wrong firsthand with the phone systems, with the EDD. Yet, virtually every time you could get through, If you don't speak English, boom, you could get right through. You're non-citizen, click that option, get right through. So there were all these things that were wrong, $31 billion, going off to fraud, particular area codes being completely backlisted, complete mechanisms that would take certain area codes and subcodes and put them on an endless merry-go-round, endlessly, wasting your time. No callbacks, no schedules, just endlessly having people on hold, wasting their time again and again and again, and there's no reason for it. And they would set you up where you call back in, you have to listen to the same 8-9 minutes worth of material every time. Pointless. This is torture. This is cruelty. This is a crime against humanity to force people to go through so many hours of the same ridiculous stuff. Violates national security. You got candidates, like me, candidates. Okay, look, everything's shut down. Stay at home. My attorney says my nonprofit can't even get involved in doing petitions, or I would be in violation of this certain law, and I could get a $100,000 fine, and that would be like a death sentence to have that type, because it's all grouped together into a form that would say you got a fine for unsafe, and it sounds like you're a child molester. It's horrible. It's just horrible. Last mark you would want on your nonprofit. So under no conditions, because after talking with the attorney, could I possibly violate the stay-at-home orders? So I couldn't do the scheduled petitioning. I couldn't assemble the teams. I couldn't do any of the work. I couldn't even make my own paycheck, so to speak, which is a supplemental item for that period. I couldn't do any of the other types of nonprofit activity, which worked differently. They totally changed the way things would work. So all of my nonprofit stuff that I did, a lot of which changed over the year. I used to do a lot of nonprofit stuff where I didn't make anything. I didn't make a dime. I lost money. Completely lost money. I basically assembled and sold pretty much at loss 10,000 computers in Arkansas. Anyhow, getting away from that, so the fast setup, working with the panels and bringing in the assistive tooling that I want to bring in, is going to be bringing in AI for mass assistive tooling, bringing in additional people to help. So we're going to bring law students. We're going to change the nature of the structure. We're going to have a different type of review capable of talk. In other words, we want to talk about this or that. So you can actually add a form of review, moralistic review, checking for errors in law, working with training more people, and more of a friendlier environment and more of a more fluid environment. So you could end up going through more stages before things might get serious with certain types of cases. Now, this is not to say that certain cases wouldn't be tight, highly professional, strict professionals, but they could also expand. So in other words, if we get some ridiculous motion that comes up, it's like, this one judge, you don't like the way the judge's motion is? Immediate appeals. Okay, we're going to get online right now. We're going to add 2 more judges in, 3 more judges in. We're going to review this again. So a more rapid response to getting people into the system where you're also using more of a Zoom. Now granted, the way I have it set up, there could technically be some more appeals, but then it's also more expedient to deal with different options. And then you get to the point eventually where you say, no more excuses, this or that, we're not going to allow it, and that's it. Now you have the different levels. A lot of the panel stuff that people think is the panel goes back to original rioting type stuff. They think it's only about treason law. It's not. It's not. The final modification deals with the obligation to protect the Constitution, the country, and to do what? To rebuild the nation. This comes in from understanding the British overran Washington. They burned the city. The Treasury, it's overrun. Would you please use your own money? We'll reimburse you. The United States guarantees all cost. Well, the United States guarantees all cost no matter what, but they can't pay you if the Treasury has been overrun. And you have the right to seize stuff. You can seize for resources, but you're obligated. You're obligated to repair the nation. So you're obligated to try to have as much decency as possible and repair the nation. So my idea of doing the panel is it's a unique opportunity to bring in upgrade options. The FMRI, expensive. Can we use it for everything? No, we can't. For certain key things, can we use it? Yes, we can. So when we get to certain items of this, it's a bit difficult on the management, but it is still doable. And again, this is all going to be worked with AI. AI will be enormously helpful, but it's not always going to work right. It's going to malfunction. It's going to hallucinate. It's not going to work correctly all the time. So that having been said, now if I focus back to different viewpoints on this, I believe we have a certain reality. Joe Biden was not prosecuting Donald Trump. He said, Justice Department, you get to handle everything. That's how the whole thing was floating. He's on the sidelines. Joe did not set up a table and a 24-hour entrance deal to deal with everybody's problems. He didn't expand this, that, and the other thing. He started looking at signing other judges up on certain things. But we also have a staff problem where certain things weren't necessarily getting reviewed. So we have a situation, if you say that she's the best person to prosecute Donald Trump, the reality is she's not the one that's going to directly prosecute Donald Trump, unless we're going to make her the one or one of the ones that's going to prosecute Donald Trump or prosecute people somehow associated with the rebellion. Now, there's the elephant in the room and the hidden things in the closet that are a problem. Unanswered questions and answers that are definitive. There's dereliction of duty. There's a lot of stuff. Boy, people are going to really hate me. But I have people shooting at me. Please understand, I have people shooting at me. And in the course of my life, I've had 7 attempts against my life by gunfire. Okay, so this business that Donald Trump got shot at the first time here, wow, so what? Well, not so what, but I mean, he just joined the club, okay? But I've had way more situations, I mean, you're driving down the road, bam, you have an explosion of your side glass at a level that's mind-boggling. You have glass that just shoots, and it's in all of your arms, your hands, the side of your face. This is an injury situation. This is very heavy. I talked about two of them on and put it out there on Twitter. But the reality is she's running for president, and she's not going to be actually prosecuting. She hasn't filed a panel like I have. I don't think she knows this deep enough law about it. With me, I need to work with other people with more expertise. There's a lot of people that I would love to get on board, but hey, it's hard to get people on board. I can't even get people to adhere to the law proper. I can't even get the Treasury to respond properly. Hi, how are you doing? I filed panel. I need funding. We have insurrection. These people are not responding. Not responding. So, we're going to have insurrection coins, all this other stuff eventually. But so my view is, the reality is I already know better. Kamala doesn't have the full scope. She's a gamble. She does not have nearly enough tactical experience. My experience is kind of mind-blowing. A lot of people don't understand. My experience comes from working with other people, from people in the military, individual private programs, working with custom lab material, working with custom technology, running an archive, a high-end archive where I deal with all kinds of scenarios, working with tactical, real-time strategy matrices. A lot of those, those kind of like games. Yeah, actually, a lot of them are kind of like games. You learn things in them. But there's something about working with tight mechanisms. Now, so understanding the economic models. I wanted to do mass economic modeling 2005 and 8. It was part of my original campaign. I said we need to immediately do $4 to $6 billion a year, and people laughed at me. They laughed at me. Now they want to pretend like they never heard me say that. It's kind of bad. It's like, I said and wrote about all these different things, and people want to totally deny that I was right. It's very hard. I wrote about quantum leakage. People don't write about quantum leakage prior to the year 2000. I did, but it's classified. It was my own personal classified research. My labs were classified. I didn't work at somebody else's lab. These are my labs. My labs. People didn't understand what I was doing. You don't understand this custom ARAD array. That's my array. You don't understand this custom bioarray. That's my array. You don't understand. All these. Quantum aperture conversion technology. That's my lab. Okay, all kinds of neat stuff. So very high-end stuff, faster than light communications, and stuff that really I can't mention right here. It's still classified. I had to withdraw my paper from the Nobel from 2004 that I was going to put in. I put a summary in, a little bit of a summary and inquired about it. They said they were very excited. I had people government say, look, that'd be a problem for national security. You can't submit that, or terrorists would weaponize that. Okay, fine. Okay. So, yeah. Did I realize that? Yeah, kind of, sort of. Yeah, there's a certain amount of understanding there, of how that turns into weapons. But there's a lot of other different areas in working with modeling and specialized items. I've done so much custom research, it's mind-boggling. Why? Because that's what was interesting. Nobody else was doing it. Good, that's what I'm going to do. Get bored, flip around, boom, 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 real fast. When you have a 240 IQ, sometimes you get in these modes where you just start working faster and faster and faster, and you're pacing, and you start working with standing desks, and you're doing 7 computers at a time, and you're working around, and it looks like you're one of these characters you see in one of these films where the guy's got a sci-fi setup with all these computers, and that was real life for me, in my lab, except half the time some of my computers were apart because I had to keep changing certain things or check on something or whatever, or, darn it, that fan isn't working right. Okay, I'm going to manually blow air in there. Let's get those components to cool down. Moving forward, so the research I did, intensive research on AI structuring mass economic models, came into structured systems where I started working with MathCog prompt sets that I was engineering and manipulating manually because there were no chips possible. There were no chips in existence that could run it. It's going to be 20 to 30 years. 20 to 30 years. So I'm working my own MathCog sets, and I'm working these other special compressive state items and all this really deep stuff. So, now it's exciting. We're getting some chips that are finally starting to do certain stuff. And, so this is like quite interesting, So when you're working with these type of custom tactical table economic models and other tactical models and engineering models, all this stuff, you can do all kinds of unique things. I had one of the things that I had working was a form of, it would be like going to use one of these online big AI things, except it was CAD engineering. You can design anything you wanted and manipulate it and flex it and change its shapes and high speed, very high speed. I ended up making a form of a neural interface for it. It's really neat. And of course, it ended up getting destroyed because of the Detco fire and a bunch of other stuff. It was not good. So, I got a lot of people I still have to sue, yeah. But the right structure here, because I've been working with what I work, and then I get a hold of them and say, okay, fine, I'm going to buy some mainframe time. I'm going to go into the big AIs with the big companies. And I double-checked, I re-engineered my campaign. There is nobody on planet Earth, behold, whatever, that is going to possibly do what I'm going to do. I've re-engineered it and re-engineered it and re-engineered it. There's no one's going to come even close. Can I reveal everything? Well, yes, no, maybe. Okay, let me lay it out for you strictly. Number one, I have an entire fleet that has been destroyed. If you've seen some of my postings, I'm talking about 14 RVs lost. That means I run those on the LA freeway system for 10 hours a day or so. 1 million plus people would see those. There's 4. Michael Crosby for president. Oh, okay, they drive a little further. Hey, there's 4 more. That's 8 of them. Wow. They drive a little further. There's 4 more. Wow. They drive a little further. There's another one. Shit, this dude's all over the place. Wow. So undeniable. Mega candidate. I spent a lot of time and work to do that. And then that was not the only fleet. There was a previous fleet that was smaller. It was destroyed. There was a 4 RV fleet that got destroyed. Bad Bahumba there. A lot of people violating stuff. We've got bad cops, lying cops. They'll just fabricate anything. Nothing worse than bad cops. So. So these guys are basically armed robbers. They're just criminals. They come on private property, my property, and they just steal everything. Day after the election, boom, we're just stealing everything, And they're doing rope-a-dope with their paperwork. I keep proving them wrong, and then they go away, and then they come back. And these people just lie and lie and lie, So they're going to lie in the property that I was on. One of my RVs, just one of the RVs, was worth way over $10 million. More than $10 million in assets in just one RV. Another RV had non-disclosed research from FTLC and some other custom quantum research. So I got a bunch of guys, I don't know if these guys are Russian or what they are. So they steal all this stuff, and basically they don't want to give a receipt. They don't want to do an inventory. Wrong answer. That violates the law right there. Where's all the stuff? So you catch up with this. So, where's all this stuff? I've got the IRS multiple times verifying this type of criminal activity. I've even talked with certain FBI agents in the past over this stuff. Cops steal people's stuff. They're criminals. The FBI repeatedly catches people in burglary gangs, in scam and theft games, illegal search and seizure and theft, all over the place, And part of the webs in the closet here with Kamala is that 2 of her prosecutorial adventure offices are ones that refuse to accept irrefutable evidence. When I bring in irrefutable evidence of, here you go, this guy wants to give me a ticket. Yeah, this ticket's completely bogus. And she's like, well, you got to do, I said, no, look, I'm a candidate. Okay, I can't keep having, I think I had 13 tickets one time. 13 tickets writing to the candidate. I says, I can't do this. This shuts my campaign down. Okay, first of all, here's the report from Arkansas. I got 4 state resident. Here's my Arkansas license right here. Okay. Here is the computer records. Separate taxes paid, cash, file here. Okay. Tabs paid here. Boom. Okay. Insurance paid, up to date. File, yes, here. Boom. All these things completely up to date. Yet California, guys, he's going to just completely write a fabricated ticket. And I'm a candidate. Oh yeah, the Arkansas was very nice. They actually bothered to review and says, yeah, we verified you actually filed papers down at the Capitol. You're a verified presidential candidate. So when I bring this stuff in and I'm on a travel to see my family, I'm going to go out and do different things, different places. I'm going to go to certain colleges, and then I have to put up with harassment from these cops for no reason at all. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not speeding. There's nothing wrong with the vehicle. It's completely tagged. It's insured. Go away. Don't bother me. So, yeah, there's these problems. And there's other tickets too. There's other times they did the same thing. So, these filthy lies that I have to deal with, and I bring in. I says, here you go, irrefutable evidence reviewed by another state. By the way, the other state will prosecute them. Because and they don't want to extradite. California says no. Says fine. You have to prosecute. Here's the laws right here. They violated this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. I'm an archiver. This one, this one, this one. Here you go. Boom. 70 years. Prosecute. So that's Kamala Harris, her office. No, we're not going to prosecute. Okay, why do you want to keep prosecuting me when I have irrefutable evidence that's not what's happening? So it really bites, when the truth is that she's somebody that's taking money at that time from Donald Trump, but she's going to discriminate against me, a candidate, and I come and look. National security is involved. See this one right here? National security right here? Yeah, this one. National security. Okay, look, there is no evidence on this case. You need to withdraw it. We won't withdraw all these stuff. We have to. Federal law right here says that any information turned over from a candidate does this. And you have to, by the way, you have to go through a certain indictment process. And I don't have to show up. I can turn information over to you. It says right here I can, and I've done that. And it's irrefutable. These people are ridiculous. They're absolutely ridiculous. The courts aren't much worse. The judges are horrible. Go in front of the judge, you prove the case, they throw the case out of court. But instead they do something. The prosecutor goes like, oh, I'm not sure. Well, Your Honor, let's just withdraw the case. Not throw it out of court, withdraw it. So then it disappears. So it's on the computer, off the computer, on the computer, off the computer. This kind of harassment is ridiculous. Ridiculous. But I said most of these people doing a lot of stuff are Republicans, So this is the beauty of an FMRI. The beauty of an FMRI is I get the key points of evidence and say, this evidence is this right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom. Right here. Okay, I can do the willing witness as to this, this, and that. And then so you can say, okay, this officer's got to go into it. Once again, they're like, oh, we don't want to prosecute him. So, well, I don't know what he is. Maybe he's a Russian spy. I get doxxed by Russian spies. 70 members of my family were murdered by the Nazis. Then the Russians came in and they killed like 16 more members of the family. So here I have this other jumping back to the previous fleet. I'm trying to digitize information involving photographs to get segments in the background and stuff like that. And some of these people were like gypsies. Some of these people, we didn't necessarily have a name for them even. The Germans took them all away and they murdered them. The only record that these people even existed was in that archive. The crime against humanity for the ongoing activity of Kamala Harris is I'm just barely scratching the surface. It's so inexcusable. There's no excuse whatsoever. So I know she ain't going to want to go on an FMRI. I mean, her best deal is, what is she going to say? Oh, I smoked too much pot and got loaded too much. And then, oh, well, I didn't check and oversee my staff. Great. I have voice to text. I record all my phone calls. I check all my stuff, and you're saying you don't. Well, but way back then, I said, you're telling me you guys don't have that. So you guys got that software. So you don't do a raid on your own people, and you don't bother to check on what they're doing. So she's going to say no. That's going to be her out. I already know that's where she's going to go. She's going to say, no, I didn't do that. I never heard about it. And that's going to be her out. But that still leaves dereliction of duty to the point of, well, you didn't take care of your office right. You're still responsible for your people. The same way we got heat coming down, we've got CFT, convicted felon Trump, attempted assassination, and Secret Service lady has to resign. You're still responsible for people over you. Now, I didn't agree with the resignation personally because I looked at everything. It was a field mistake. The top 3 agents in charge misread the situation. They misdeployed. To me, that was blatantly obvious right off the bat. The head cannot necessarily be there all the time. And when I looked a little bit more, I saw that there was lots of agents, more than normal agents. But I noticed different signatures, the walking and handling, different type of Secret Service agents. I'm serious. I mean, literally, I noticed a signature that these guys look different. So I don't know. There's a friction. Fragments information is, there's a friction between a request for people to be reported. There's a friction between people who are saying, I'm of high ethics, I have extreme training, and it is emotionally distressing for me to be around this person because I don't think they're ethical. And it is impairing my clear tone of center of thought of who I am and what my life's about and what it is I stand for. It's a conflict, and I need to be transferred to a different detail area. So there are these problems, so then you end up with people maybe on the buddy club, and maybe the training wasn't as good. That's something someone else would have to turn out, but I'd say that's highly likely. But, so I'm tracking back here. The right way to do this is to do the panel. The right way is to have better interaction with professionals. When you're having interaction with professionals, you have the eye to eye. You have the inflection. You have the leads. You have the I'm getting bored. You have the let's move the discussion over here, or I have other papers here, or let me ask you a question, moment, finger up. That's how you keep a tighter interaction going and more of a focus. That's how you move things along. So these little cast pod things as I do the presentation on the fly, it's a lot harder to me. Even though I have lots of professional training, I got 2 years of college of film, some media training, some other stuff. But the thing is that my equipment being destroyed, me coming under fire, and the mass dereliction. And then having police threaten me and the way these people do stuff. Because, see, you got the extra thing. You complain, you say, this isn't right, I want to prosecute. And then mysteriously you're pulled over. Mr. Crosby, you have a mouth. Mr. Crosby, you're being a problem. I don't want to hear that bullshit. I don't want to hear that kind of bullshit. I don't want to hear people saying that I'm a liar when I know I can go on an FMRI. And this is not my first rodeo. This is not my first rodeo. The first time I was sequestered as an undercover civil rights internal affairs officer, that was a big deal. I didn't want the job. I didn't get a choice. That didn't come out so well, by the way. Didn't come out so well. Didn't get to run what I got to do. And at the end, the person who sequestered me in died of a mysterious heart attack. That didn't work so well for me either. Not so good. So, other times, other days. So, other things I've done, assessment, logic assessments, 7-4 plane scenario, 2 Stinger missiles firing simultaneously on the ground, 1998, parties doing a oddball 555 trying to trigger World War III. I wrote about that. Yeah. So on 9/11, I'm on the phone with the Pentagon, and I get to hear the team that I'm on the phone with screaming professionally, describing aircraft with the last words that they utter, screaming, as wham, start to hear it crash, bang, boom, Lime goes dead. So yeah, that one bites. That has to live with you. You have to keep going. So there's a lot of reasons why I've had a lot of other things. I can't download them all. Why I've had fast acting items to deal with, and I will work very well with people who are professionals in different ways that some people can't imagine because they just can't hold it in their head. There's more diversity. I'll work very well with lots and lots of people. So I'm the best choice for the president. Round and round it goes. Where it stops, nobody knows. No, AI knows where it goes. Nobody can beat me. There's no one in history who's going to be able to beat me. I've already smoked the scenario after scenario in the AIs. So when I get together and I will round it out with the rest of the team, we are going to be going high performance on stuff in a mind-boggling way. We're going to morph the entire economy. I'm not going to be somebody who's going to want to be interested in hearing somebody talk about non-repairs of Social Security, largest running fund in the history of the world, next to the next several large countries that have a similar fund. That is a bankable fund. What's it for? You use it as a completion guarantor factor for a wholesale loan from the Fed to do new home construction on a graduated payment loan. Everybody goes back to work. Everybody goes to max production. Oh, you need help? Oh, you need help. You need an advocate. Oh, you need a contract, assistant contractor, plumber, whatever. Yeah, that's built in the loan. That's all there. That's going to happen. You get paid to do it. So, I don't want to hear all this BS that I've been hearing for decades about people don't know what to do to repair stuff. I'm going to be able to rewrite everything that has to do with the finance and the proper backtoes. That's all going to change. And I'm going to be sitting working with the best people. Somebody says, that won't work because this. Okay, it's another problem. Let's work it. Can we rework it? Sometimes you can't rework things. You run into impassables. That's just the way it is. But the simple fact, Kamala still doesn't have it. And this is not the time for me to bring out every piece on it, but it is time for me to stand up and disclose a little point and say, well, yeah, there's some good reasons why. I'm putting material out as I can. I have a lot of damage. The previous fleet I lost because of the other dereliction of duty. Lots of money. That's 4 more RVs. So it's not 14 now, it's 18 RVs. 18 RVs that should have been there. And it all comes down to the same people leadership that want to see me get stepped on my neck, but they want special privileges, but they don't want to do their job. So they're grandstanders to me. You want to talk prosecutorial? We're talking prosecutorial. We're going to talk about grandstanders now. Grandstanding. People do this. Let me give an example of grandstander. Grandstander is a guy who says, I came up with a new plan. We're going to save 14 lives because we found that some crackheads are found a way to steal cold medicine. They rework it. It costs 8 times more to do it, but they still turn it into dope. But since they're stealing it, it costs less because they're stealing it. Okay, so we're going to limit how much we can sell of it. But in fact, it got so bad that they said we're just going to ban types of over-the-counter medication that have been on the shelf for 75 years. We're talking the type of medication that gives you absolutely way better control over symptoms. Why is this important? Now we got to talk science. Science is spread pattern, understanding spread pattern. If you understand spread pattern and you're a good prosecutor, you're going to go talk to the right people. You're going to go talk to the best people. You're going to find the best scientists. You're going to understand about spread pattern. What happened? What happened is grandstanders took something off the shelf and didn't realize what they're doing because they went after non-powerful people. It's a standardization of grandstanding. You go after non-powerful people, you find people that are nutcases. You advertise these people tactically because you want to make yourself always look good and superior. So everything's selected. So this means that a lot of people call in with perfectly good items, or they write in, or they walk in, and they get rejected, they get hung up on. Okay, these people were not handled. They had every right to be handled. Under my administration, well, it's 24 hours a day open. And we have assistive tooling AI, and it's going to be reviewed. 70% of the write-up is going to happen right there by the first interview. And then you're going to have follow-ups. It's decentralized. We can do this through Zoom, everything. Mind-boggling. So back to the grandstanding. There's all these facets of people who are going to do grandstanding, and they're idiots. So what happened? COVID comes in, and because we have people that normally would have had a supply of excellent cold medicine, they don't have it anymore because it disappeared off the market. It was gone off the market. The supply people had on hand eventually got used up, gone. You have to go to a doctor to get it. Well, that's too expensive. People didn't do that. So you had people snotting all over themselves, practically wrecking their cars. But the equated extra spread pattern is additional exposure. Comes out to over 9,000 people the first year of COVID died in California because of increased spread pattern. Welcome to Science 101. Welcome to Science. Do we have an apology yet? No, we don't have an apology. Do we have somebody responsibly setting forward to correct that problem? No, we don't. So that's grandstanding. So if you're talking about good research and good prosecutorial research, put that in your pipe and you smoke it. So we're going to move on here again. Good prosecutorial says, why are disabled people forced to pay $500 or more a year for their electric bill, and the money goes to people to get electric cars, but they can't afford electric cars. But they're forced to do it, and if they don't pay the money, their utilities get turned off. So we have rich people forcibly using governmental force. This is abuse of authority to extract money from the poorest members of our society, disabled people, retired people that don't have it to give, that they really in 10 years, that's $5,000. They really could have used that $5,000 themselves for their own car expenses. They have their own problems. So if you're a good prosecutor, you would see this and say, I need to deal with this. I need to immediately step up and say, no, that is wrong, and that is actionable. So if you want to be a good prosecutor, you take that, you put that in your pipe, and you smoke it. So if I'm a good prosecutor, I'm going to use my computers and my AI, and I'm going to go through and it says, AI, find the anomalies quick, check all categories, substructures, and show me where all the holes are. Who's been failing? Have they been failing to follow the reviews of information turned over by the federal government concerning Russian spies and interfering into the process of elections, especially at the local level, because then that's a local problem. So we're going to go through all this and see where all the holes are, and there's all these holes. And you have all this grandstanding that goes on. There's all this politics, all this cowardly behavior by parties that are afraid to do the right thing because they don't want to lose a couple extra votes. Well, gee, that sounds really nice for your personal tactical understanding. But that also means that you're balancing a form of cowardly behavior. You are for sale. You are selling ethics. How important is it that you actually have to be the one to get in office? What is it that you're going to actually step out of the box and do to justify that? Or are you just about memeism? Is it about the beauty contest, the popularity contest, and your memeism? Is it about you having a better party status in life? What is it about? What is the truth? These questions have to be balanced. Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie about your own center. You have to have a proper center, or you have no ethics. So when I'm going for the board, the ethics of the board of the diversity, I have a wide scale of people. They're both Democrats, Republicans. I also have military people. I want a general on a seat. Seat 5 I've got reserved already. I've got one of the most brilliant people in the history of the military, modern military, that I'm going to have sit there. I'll have to find a way to make that happen. Why do I want people in the military? Military also has JAG. Military also has a different system of ethics that also have a direct staple connected to the Constitution. There's very important keys of understanding why things need to have a balance and consideration for not just moral structure, ethics. They have to be ethical, and they also have to be tactically wise. Tactical wise balance is essential, and you have to have a blend of this, or you're not going to be respected. So having the right people with the right experience means that I might be looking for the anomalies, the rarities of the people that I am certain are going to do the best job. And then I'm going to have to figure something out. If I'm ethical, I'm going to have to figure out how to pay them better. I'm going to have to figure out how there has to be a bonus. I'm going to have to figure out how do I justifiably show respect and say, okay, you're worth more. You deserve more. I don't want to interfere with what should be your rightful schedule in life. But how do I start saying that where it doesn't sound like I'm corrupt and on the take? I guess I just came about as close as you can get to it right there. So another aspect of what I consider crucial to the diversity of a proper panel and be able to blend and work with prosecutorial powers, be able to have our cake and eat it too, be able to be both the presidential candidate, have the presidential candidate panel, the full panel rights, be able to sit and then say, guys, I got to do some presidential stuff. I need you all to take over. Then I have to come back and check on the paperwork from time to time. Then I also have to deal with the fact that I throw a tizzy and I do something, and all of a sudden there's 20 of them. I mean, we're 20, and 19 of them said, Mike, none of us agree. And I'm like, oh, shit, okay, am I having a bad day? What did I do wrong? Somehow, apparently I'm wrong, because if 19 people say that you're drunk, you're probably drunk, right? Because the flip side of this is, if 19 people say you're wrong, and the weird thing is you're right, and the aliens from outer space come in and go, Mike, you're right, then you're crazy. See, then there's a problem. So the reality is that you lose power when you do a full panel. You don't have the same kind of panel, even though the right upon it says it's your panel technically. So people could be discharged, rearranged, whatever. But that's not ethical. There has to be an ethical review for why, because anything could end up being reviewed at the end when it's over with by the Senate. So it's a unique opportunity to utilize the panel, keep it in force, make the right. Ouch, that hurt. Never mind. Somebody did something. They drove over something. It was not a smart thing. Anyhow, the right thing to do is to keep the panel operating. But the reality is that I'm going to spend less and less and less time connected to it. But I have to have enough brain to be able to work with intelligent people and do intelligent write-ups. So I have a series of samples that start out that get reviewed 3 more times of papers that I've already put out, respective to situations I've already looked at. And there's direct reasons why that material is a priority 1. There's outside materials I would like to review that I still haven't gotten to. I've got additional write-ups that I still need to do. But my constraints on my time are really, really tight. And I have a lot of problems. I have a lot of people that owe me money. We have a corrupt world. Welcome to reality. So I'm still awaiting and reinitiating communications with people and trying to get rational communications back in. Trying everything I possibly can to get rational communications in. Because when it finally does come in, that means that I have no choice but to seek the strictest possible prosecutorial option. I want to thank you for your time. And that's first run, loose example off the top of my head. Can we deal with it?